after the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the disciples go on to Galilee as they've been instructed. And while they're hanging out up there, Peter goes, let's go fishing, which is pretty much where Jesus met them when we first are encountering them. And so they're out there fishing, and then suddenly Jesus is on the beach, and he calls to them and says, hey, throw the net on the other side. It's like, this is very reminiscent of Jesus' first great encounter with Peter. One of the disciples jumps up and goes, it's the Lord, and dives into the water to swim after them. When the rest of them come to shore, Jesus has got breakfast waiting there for them, cooking on an open fire. But he pulls Peter aside, and he asks Peter, Peter, do you love me? Peter says, yes, Lord, I love you. He said, feed my sheep. Then he says, Peter, do you love me? He says, Lord, you know I love you. And he said, feed my lambs. Peter, do you love me? Peter hangs his head. And he says, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. He says, feed my sheep. All right, now, some people see in this encounter something in the exchange, because in the Greek, it's like Jesus says, do you agape me? He actually uses the verb form, but he says, do you agape me? And Peter says, Lord, you know that I phileo you. Okay? Now, phileo is typically said, oh, that's like brotherly love. And people say, well, agape is like God love. That's not actually what's going on here. Agape does not mean God love. John uses the word agape to talk about the love of God throughout his gospel, but agape just is the most basic word for love. You can agape your baseball hat, agape your kids, agape your wife. Cakes that I just had last weekend that were just incredible. Agape is just generic. Is not the switch of the Greek words, but it is the fact that he has said it 3 times. Because Peter was told on the night that Jesus was arrested, Peter's like, I will die for you. Though all others forsake you, I'm going nowhere. And Jesus goes, really? Before the cock crows, you will have denied me 3 times. Peter's like, not going to happen. But Jesus gets arrested. Peter swings the sword to protect them, but Jesus is like, knock it off. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And he allows himself to be arrested. Peter's expectations are dashed. His hopes are dashed. He doesn't know what to do. He's sitting around a fire while Jesus is inside being condemned to death. And then all of a sudden, the crowd hovering around. Who are the people hanging around a fire at 3 o'clock in the morning? Not the nice guys. The nice guys are at home asleep. These are the people that love the nightlife. And they're all hanging around, and they're going, hey, you're from Galilee. I can tell by the way you're talking, because he had an accent. And they go, you were that guy that's in there. And they're like, I don't know the guy. And they said, no, someone else. It's a big crowd. If you read the different Gospels, you realize that a bunch of people are yelling this. They're all around him. They're all saying it. A woman, a man, other people. They're getting pushy with him. No, I know. You were with him. I saw you. No, I don't even know the guy. Then he starts to curse and swear. He starts using foul language to separate himself all the more from his Lord. I don't know the man. And then the rooster crows. So let me ask you a question. Do you think that Peter ever, for the rest of his life, heard a rooster crow and didn't, in some small piece of himself, relive that moment? You can say, well, he just needs to accept the Lord's forgiveness, because there's 2 different types of shame here. And I do believe there's 2 types of shame. And I think the pastor dealt very well with the debilitating shame. That's the shame that Judas felt. That's the shame that drove Judas to go hang himself, the one that could not accept the forgiveness of the Lord. But there's another type of shame, and that is that tiny little memory that we have of ourselves, where we see ourselves without Jesus, and we never want it to leave us, never completely. We don't want to have that moment of shame, that moment where our truest selves is revealed to us, and we look in the mirror of our own soul and do not like what we see. We don't ever want that to completely leave us. And I promise you that if Peter, when he was marching to the cross, because they were going to crucify him, And he told them, I am not worthy to be crucified the same way Jesus was crucified. Turn that baby upside down. Now that's some chutzpah. Turn it upside down. And I promise you, having lived a life of service to the Lord, having been an instrument of great miracles, having planted hundreds of churches around the whole world, having spent the whole of himself being an instrument of power for Jesus Christ, if on the way to that cross he heard a rooster crow, there'd be a little piece of himself that relived what he is without Jesus. I think that's a gift. I think a person that can walk in the fullness of their own strength and they walk around saying, look at me, I'm so special. Look at me, I'm so awesome. Look at how much impact I've had. Look how great I am in the Lord. I think anybody that walks around being able to carry that unabated is in a dangerous place. But the person who has the gift of enduring shame is what I like to call it. That gift. Paul talks about it. That thorn in the flesh that God gave me to keep me from becoming arrogant because of the greatness of the experiences that I've had in the Lord. He gave that to me as a gift. Pain, suffering, and a confrontation of our own selves. And I look back at my life. When I do these, I often say, I've said it a few times, if you can remember, I come up here, my humiliation for your edification. And I've got so many moments in my life that I can look back on. And I go, that's me without Jesus. That's what I would be tomorrow without Jesus. That's not what I was at 16 without Jesus. That's what I am now without Jesus. Bless the Lord for the enduring gift of a little bit of shame. If you like what you're hearing today, please subscribe below. And don't forget to share it on as many platforms as you can. And tell your friends to watch. Thank you.